Well, from the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks, which are again 15 and 20 kiloton weapons respectively, it was hundreds of thousands of deaths. And this is just a quick refresher of these casualties. These are some numbers that people have estimated. However, according to my simulations and also some others before me, other people have done this similar work. You don't actually need a 15 or 20 kiloton yield to produce these kind of casualty numbers. If you detonate just a 1 kiloton weapon at surface level, greatly depending on the population of the area, and that's the main reason for why there's such a large range. But based on the population and some other factors, you could end up with deaths on the order of the magnitude equal or even greater than the World War II attacks. So for a weapon, 1/20th the yield, but at least over twice the deaths, this seems like we should maybe pay attention to this possibility.
Ava, can you
Yeah.
speak to? I mean, when you read, uh, I'm speaking to the entire class here. When you read about casualty numbers, you're going to find quite a spread. Some will
Mhm.
say, I mean, for example, you'll hear people say, well, the number of deaths at Nagasaki and even Hiroshima were less than the firebombing of Tokyo. And there is some truth to that if you qualify it by saying prompt deaths. Then you get other numbers from people who die from cancer or radiation sickness measured in
Right.
weeks or months. Can you walk us through that so that they
Mhm.
will have an appreciation about when they see a high number, what must be involved, whereas if they see a low number, what's involved? And it isn't that one number is wrong or right. It's just that they factor different things in. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think that at the very low ranges, they're assuming kind of just deaths due to the very like within the first minute of the detonation. And I think at some I think the main difference may come from the definition of what deaths are due to the blast and then what deaths are, like you said, like due to injuries sustained later, but maybe they're, according to some estimates, it's uncertain what how much effect their personal genetics had on that injury, that long-term effect. Uh, so maybe in the low case, we're assuming people were who just died from the falling debris and the blast directly and the fires directly within like the very well understood ring of like if you just calculate it with the well understood simulations that the military uses, it goes out to this distance, and this is kind of what we assume it to be based on the population. However, like there's also fire effects from nuclear weapons that are really difficult to understand and simulate and predict. So fires may have spread much more widely, especially because Japanese cities back in the day and even today in a lot of areas are just wooden. So if there's some lingering fires, it may spread very quickly into massive, like kind of firestorm effect. So I think firestorms is also a major cause for discrepancies in the death numbers because the firestorm could spread quite far out from where the blast kind of rings are. Like the blast may go this far scientifically, but then the fires may just spread and trap people and burn them down. And they maybe had some injuries from flying glass, so they can't escape. And rescue couldn't, we didn't, no one planned to, how do we rescue people from this situation? So fires are also uh, a big factor. And then, of course, some of them may include cancer deaths like leukemia, but some people, that's like, of course, very widely disputed on like statistically which ones are likely to have caused from from the attack and which ones are naturally occurring. So I think cancer is also a large source of discrepancy there. So,
Okay. But you can see the order of magnitude is pretty significant even in the low number. Uh,
right.
You're talking about at least, Cologne-like bombing, firebombing-like results from one bomb. So, I mean, it's not trivial.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah. Mm. Just I was just looking at the pictures and you can it's hard not to be just stunned by that. So going back to this chart, you can see that for just 1 kiloton, how much material does that actually require to construct? And for plutonium, it could require 1 to 3 kilotons, which, as you can see, is far below the 8 kilograms of the IAEA significant quantity value. So the premise for this project was this this issue, and one and we wanted to question, well, what are the effects of a 1 kiloton surface burst detonation? And for this project, we chose the Middle East as being a particularly volatile region. We certainly, I mean, before the Russia-Ukraine war started, we were certainly hearing about the Middle East a lot. Recently, it's been focused on, the Russia-Ukraine situation, but the Middle East is still a volatile region that a lot of people have their eyes on, and particularly with the news that was occurring last year at the time of us doing this project, that was a particular impetus for this project, and that's where this question comes from.